Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in this episode of the skirt edit, I'm going to show you how to cut out and sew up your A-line skirt. So for this video, you're going to need your finished A-line skirt pattern, your chosen fabric and lining, some interfacing for your waistband and a zip. So to start, you're going to want to iron your fabric and then fold it over. Then starting with the front skirt pattern, you're going to place this down on your folded edge and pin it in place with your pins. So once that one's done, you can move on and place the back skirt pattern beside the front, and then make sure you pin this in place too. So once they're both secured, then you can go ahead and cut them out. So when you've done cut out, don't forget to nick in your notches, as these are important for later. So moving on to the lining, you're going to repeat the same steps. You're going to iron your lining, fold it over and place down your patterns, pin them in place and then cut them out. Again, don't forget your notches. So now for the waistband, you're only going to need a single piece of fabric for this, which we're going to stiffen with the interfacing. So the best way to do this is just cut out enough interfacing that you need for that single piece. And then you're going to iron it on, making sure that the shiny side of the interfacing is on the back of your fabric. So once that's done, you're going to go ahead and pin your pattern to that fabric piece, and then you can cut it out. Again, don't forget to mark in your notches. So before moving on, I'm going to mark in the dart points on the skirt pattern and the lining. I'd usually use tailor's chalk for this, but just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm using a pen. So now you can remove the patterns from your fabric. So you should have 2 back pattern pieces, 2 back skirt lining pieces, 1 full front skirt pattern, and then 1 full front skirt lining. I hope that made sense. So going back to the back pattern pieces, we're going to sew in the darts. So to do this, just grab the 2 notches on the waistband and pull them together, making them meet. Then hold that end point from your dart. And when you do this, you're going to have your fabric on a fold. So you're going to want to sew from the waistline down to that point. So you're going to be sewing at an angle. So you're going to want to repeat this for the 2 back pieces and the 2 back lining pieces. So now taking the back skirt piece, we're going to lay them down on top of each other so that the right sides are facing. And then we're going to sew from the hem up to the end of that zipper notch. And you're going to do this at 1 centimetre seam allowance. Now make sure you leave the top half open, as we're going to be putting in the zip there later. So once that's done, it's time to sew the front and the back together. So again, you're going to want to lay the two pieces on top of each other, making sure that the right sides are facing. And then you're going to pin the side seams. So now you can sew the side seams together using 1 cm seam allowance. So before moving on, you're going to want to iron out those seams nice and flat, and then you're going to cut off any excess threads. So now you're going to repeat the same steps again for the lining. So first you're going to sew the back seams together using your 1 cm seam allowance, making sure you leave the top half open. Then you're going to pin the front lining to the back lining and sew the side seams together using your 1 cm seam allowance. Before moving on, make sure that you iron out all those seams flat and then cut off any excess threads. So now for the waistband. Using all the notches, we're going to line the waistband up with the waistline and then pin them together. So you may notice that my waistband has actually gotten longer, and the reason for that is I made a mistake during the pattern process and I had forgot to add extra measurements for the second half of the back. So if you followed my waistband video, then you should be fine. I just made a silly mistake on my part, but mistakes do happen. So once pinned, you're going to go ahead and sew the two pieces together by 1 cm seam allowance. So now simply fold over the waistband and iron it flat. So now it's time for the zip. So I don't actually have a full in-depth video for sewing in a zip, but I am pretty sure that there is plenty here on YouTube. So I'm simply lining up the top of the zip with the fold of my waistband. Make sure that you remember that it's the fold, not the top of the waistband. And then we're going to pin the zip in place. So now using my zipper foot, I'm sewing the zip into place, trying to get as close to the zipper teeth as I can, but not too close that we catch the teeth. So I'm going to repeat this for the other side of the zip as well. So when the zip is in, just open and close it a few times to make sure that it doesn't catch your fabric and that you're happy with the placement. Okay, so now it's time to sew in the lining. So to do this, again, you're going to pin the right side of the lining to the right side of the waistband and use all of your notches as your guide. So once secure with the pins, go ahead and sew the two together using your 1 cm seam allowance. And then remember to iron out all your seams and trim off your excess threads. So the next thing we need to do is sew the lining to the zip. So to do this, you're going to fold over the waistband so that the right sides are facing each other, and then you're going to line up the edge of your lining to the zip edge and pin it in place. So like the front, I'm going to sew the two together with the zipper foot, trying to get as close to the teeth as I can. So now you can cut off any excess zipper material and threads. So again, test out the zip, make sure that you're happy with it in case you need any changes. So now for the last part, which is the hem. So again, I've done the hem the same way I've done the straight skirt hem. I'd folded up by 1 cm and then ironed it flat. Then I folded it up by the remaining 3 cm and ironed this flat too. And then I'm going to sew it up by hand using a blind stitch. So you will notice when you're doing this that it is slightly more difficult to hem a skirt that is slightly curved. So I advise taking your time with it, even pinning it down first. So if you find it too difficult, you could reduce the size of the hem to maybe 1 or 2 centimeters, and this will just make it a little bit easier to sew. So once both your skirt hem and your lining is done, then go ahead and just give it a good ironing. And that is your skirt finished. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button and drop me a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I upload a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.